Welcome along everyone to what is the biggest day of racing in the world. Gates are back and they're racing. Cross count here to win by a length and a quarter over Esperini. Try again and he wins. We're almost set. Gates are back, they're racing in the Dubai World Cup. Thunder Snow reaches the front, Gronkowski fights hard. Thunder Snow on the outside, nose in front, it's double Thunder.
Well, what a night it was here in Meydan. And we are not in aeroplane mode, far from it. It is time to max up the signal because we've got some fantastic guests for you on a very special edition of Luck on Sunday. It's extremely hot here in Dubai. I'm going to endeavour not to melt, but I'm going to introduce you to some fantastic guests, one of whom we will see in a moment. And joining me to talk to our guest, Angus McNae, who was on the show all last night. Your initial reaction on World Cup night 2019?
It was an absolutely fabulous evening, Nick. The international raiders came, they conquered to a degree, and the local horses, well, they stood up for themselves as well. It was sensational.
And no doubt about the story, and the story was that of Thunder Snow, who became the first horse in history to win 2 Dubai World Cups, 9 for Saeed bin Sarur, another for Christophe Soumillon, but the man who has been preparing Thunder Snow is the 6-time champion jockey Kieren Fallon. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yeah, I wouldn't say preparing him, but just riding him, which is not a hard job because he's an absolute bust. You know, you couldn't get on a nicer, easier horse to ride, you know.
And you're putting down your own part in his preparation, because both Christophe Soumillon, straight after the race, in the middle of his euphoria, and Saeed bin Sarur, when he was being mobbed by about 1,000 people in the paddock, you were the first name they mentioned. So that you've obviously done something right.
I've been riding him since he was a 2-year-old, and every year out here, it's a great place to work, you know, if you want to call it work. And he's the only horse I have to ride, really, so it's easy.
So what is it that you like about this horse so much? He's clearly a character, isn't he?
Yeah, this horse he'd nearly talk to you. You know, all you have to feed him is his apples and his carrots or sugar, and he's the best in the world. But without them, he can be a little bit grumpy and he can be difficult in the box. But I love him to bits.
You've obviously followed, like we have, his story around the world, from being quite a good 2-year-old, a little bit quirky at times, to that extraordinary performance, whatever you want to call it, in the Kentucky Derby when he just bucked for a furlong. Then coming to win the UAE Derby, 2 wins in the Dubai World Cup, 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and just about everything else in between.
Yeah, well, I would say he was quirky. He has his moments. I was telling the boys earlier, little things like we got quite a few butterflies around the track, and they annoy him, whereas if a bird flew out in front of him, wouldn't be a bother on him, you know. But the Kentucky Derby, I think it was just to do with the puddles that were there, you know. And but other than that, he has done nothing wrong. You know, he loves it here. He loves the dirt here, you know, which he shows his best. And he's got a great character and a great temperament. I love him to bits.
Were you disappointed with him when he was beaten in his prep race, round 3 of the McNae Challenge?
No. He had a little injury. He's only had to come back off an injury. And we took him here for a racecourse gallop. It was only really to have a look around. If he had been fit Super Saturday, he wouldn't have won the World Cup. You know, we had to leave something to improve on, and we did. You know.
Let's take a look at last night's big race, the Dubai World Cup of 2019, 2nd consecutive success for Thunder Snow. And I mean, the striking point about this was he was much smarter away and out of the gate from a wide draw than he had been in his prep race, Kieren. When you saw Christophe riding him out of the gate and you saw him getting that position, did you immediately think, yes, away we go? We
were happy. Initially we weren't happy with the draw. Stuck on the outside isn't ideal. Obviously you're at a disadvantage by a couple of lengths. But on the other side of the coin, if you're down the inside and you missed a kick, you're having to use up too much gas to get a position. He was able to get across nicely. You know, you couldn't have been happier with him here. And obviously, you know, Richard up on the lead, setting nice fractions. He was just able to follow. when what you call him travelled up on the outside.
Gronkowski.
Gronkowski,
Yeah. You know, he travelled really strong to the race. I mean, he ran great in America. He obviously, you know, coming here, he had a great reputation. Chad Brown had him in America, and just slightly, our horse hit a flat spot just before we turned for home. And I kind of got a little bit worried then, but when he straightened up and he pulled him out and switched him onto his right lead, he was always going to win.
You look at the race here, you sort of think North America is going to beat a retreat, but in first position at the moment is Gronkowski. In third position is Thunder Snow. At this point, Angus, watching them travel, do you want to be in 1 or 3?
Well, I would have wanted to be North America, really, riding the rail, because I thought Richie Mullen just eased them up down the back a little bit and saved a bit, and I thought he'd kick again, but I think he's a horse who packs it in when he's challenged, and Gronkowski was up next to him for quite a long way down the back, and I think North America cried enough fairly quickly. But now, when Soumillon gets hold of Thunder Snow, and as Kieren said, he changes his legs, you always felt he was going to get there.
He wants to win. He's as tough as nails. When you get into a battle with him, you're not going to beat him. I know it's only a nose or a short head, but that's all he has. He's the same in his work. When he gets by his lead horse, he goes to sleep under you.
That might be one of the keys to him, isn't it, Kieren?
Looks after himself, yeah.
In that he's danced a lot of dances.
Yes.
He's had a lot of hard races.
He had indeed, yeah.
But he takes them because he looks after himself at home.
He always saves a bit. He's not one like you see Gronkowski, how he travels too well.
Yeah.
You know, using up too much energy. Whereas our little fella, he just saves. Wants to get his head in front and he wants to keep it there.
You used to quite enjoy riding horses like that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just were.
Put him to sleep, yeah. So they're not using any energy, you know. Whereas Oisin there was full of running, you know, and that was a difference in the end.
Now, the whip has been in the news constantly for about the last 18 months. I don't want to make this programme about the whip again, because frankly, everyone's getting a bit jaded with this subject. But Christophe Soumillon's been given a 25,000 sterling dirhams ban. Okay, so that's 5,000-6,000 sterling.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, the whip was changed, and it's a cushioned whip. It doesn't hurt, and that's why it was changed. So it wouldn't hurt the horse, but they're still making an issue. I can't understand it. You know, and it's supposed to be terrible in America. They're supposed to be in Santa Anita. We're taking the whip more or less off the jockeys. They're not going to be able to use them. But I mean, they don't hurt horses. I mean, I love horses to bits, and I wouldn't want them hurt. But these whips that we're using, they don't hurt them. They're just for keep them concentrating, and it helps you if they're hanging, you know.
But in point about when you were riding, particularly in
the whips are different then.
But in the latter stages of your, well, I say the latter stage of your career, in the heyday of your career, you weren't actually that big a whip jockey. You'd always say, "I'll roll this, get this horse rolling. Whip's the last thing."
Yeah, if you have to go for your whip 2-3 out, you're going to be in trouble anyway. There's no point, and you don't use the whip to hurt the horse. You use the whip to encourage the horse.
To get it to achieve its maximum.
And get the momentum flying.
Yeah. And it strikes me that a horse like Thunder Snow is a horse who really does respond, which is why Christophe's quite happy to use it quite a bit, because he knows his horse is coming for him.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't hurt the horse. All it does is encourage him. These whips don't hurt.
They don't know where the winning post is either. You've got to try and get the best out of them. They don't know where the line is.
That's true.
And you have to encourage them to keep going to that point.
Because when they get tired, just like any athlete, when they get tired, they want to ease off.
Yeah. Is he an idle horse? You've got the cheek. He wears the cheek pieces, doesn't he? So he needs a fair bit of encouragement.
Yeah, but it's like I say, it's like that at home. You have to push him around in the morning. You know, he just goes to sleep under you. And but when he's working, he travels nicely, just nicely. Quickens by his lead horse. Major partnership actually, they won early in the carnival, his lead horse, which is a good lead horse. He quickens by him, he usually gets in his way, he quickens by him, and then as soon as he gets the length up in him, that's it, he's not done, even before you get to the line with him.
I love listening to you talking about riding the horses at home, and always did when you were a jockey as well. A lot of jockeys, when they leave the weighing room, they're just bereft, distraught, they don't know what to do with themselves. It strikes me that this is actually a pretty good substitute for you, that you get quite a lot of satisfaction just from the preparation and the training and just being around them.
Yeah, and I was more excited last night with this horse wedding than I would have been in any of my rides, whether it be an Arc or a Derby or Breeders' Cup. You know, I got more out of it because I'm with him every morning. I love the horse more than anything else, you know. And, you know, it's just thrilling, so it was.
This is
Look at
you.
him.
This is you riding him out with the Godolphin string.
Yeah. We have a great crack, so we do. Even Gary Hine and all the boys, you know, that I used to ride with before, are all there. Chris Cackler. It's fun. You know, it's not work. It's fun. You know, as I say, it's a great holiday.
And does Saeed sort of leave you to your own devices on the horse a bit and just say, you crack on, you tell me how to train him, get on with it?
It's a routine. We're told what to do every morning. We more or less know what we're doing anyway. Whether it's a 10 furlong gallop or 6 or whatever. And the work's the same. He works once a week. We know what we're doing. It's simple, it's routine, and it works.
And you've been to see him this morning and fed him?
I had to see him. He has to get his apples every morning.
So no matter what?
Sugar. He loves sugar.
You have to go in and give him his apples?
Yeah. But there's quite a few. I mean, Best Solution, Team Talk, when you go into the yard in the morning, the first thing, you know, when I come in, I'll have a little cup of sugar, and they all wait for you. And buck in the door.
And you were telling me earlier on that even he's idle in his races, he's idle in his work, and he's even idle when he's eating, because he just a little bite out of the apple, and he go back again and another little bite when he's finished chewing that one.
It's amazing. He's like a little child, you know. It's just a joy to be around.
Well, it's lovely to hear you talk about him, and let's hope that he can build through the season on what he achieved yesterday. Do you know what the sort of rough plan for him will be?
He's in quarantine at the moment. He goes to America. They have something lined up for him in America, and I think the Breeders' Cup again is a target. I don't know for sure, but they're the rumours.
Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita, and of course, one man who's ridden more Breeders' Cup winners than anybody else, 26 of them, no less. Mike Smith will be joining us as our special guest later on this morning. Now let's take a look at the other star performance from last night, and that was the victory of Armandai in the Dubai Turf. We expected great things of her, and we got, for 9/10 of the race at any rate, a pretty vivid exhibition of what is a pretty special talent, I think, Angus.
I think she's a global superstar, Nick, and I don't think she was 100% last night. I think they've got their eye on other big targets, notably the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe later in the year, and they had her spot on enough, well enough to win this. But I think she's a lot better than the bare result. I think there's loads more to come from her. She's won her last 7, only beaten once, of course, when on her first start in a maiden. She's unbeaten since then. Course record in the Japan Cup, Triple Crown in Japan. She can do no more than she's done so far. And I think Lemaire looked after her there, to be honest.
I think she reminds me a lot of a Ouija board, you know, a really top-class filly, and she can beat the colts.
But unlike Ouija board, sometimes you'd be just keeping her off the bridle almost and squeezing her along. This filly absolutely tanked her way through the race. The way she passed those horses on the outside, she had the race won, and then...
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question about the hood. She wore a hood last night.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
And when she hit the front, she didn't seem to do much. Do you think she'd benefit from having the hood taken off?
For sure. I mean, I think there's too many, it's not me to say, too many trainers using the hood when it can be taken off. Inside, you know, I've ridden horses that would have been wearing the hoods and I forgot to put them on or whatever, and they're even better without it, you know. But I think just when they have them on, it's kind of like a habit, and to leave it on. They have to be uncomfortable because they're kind of made of plastic, and especially in weather like this at home. You know, Willie Mullins uses them a lot, and that's probably where they got it from. Everyone starts to pick up on the success with them, and as you said, I think they'd be better. You know, they're really there to relax them, especially like quirky fillies in particular, and it relaxes them. But obviously, then when they get older, then I can't see why they shouldn't take them off.
Do they actually work?
They do work, yeah. For quirky fillies.
Yeah.
For quirky
fillies in particular.
Yeah.
So they work to settle them down, but then once you've established a racing pattern,
I take them off.
Time to get it off and kick on.
Yeah. Well, it's like everything else. Why fix it if it's not broke, you know?
Well, we can take a look back at some of the other races from last night. We'll have a look at the Shima Classic, which was won by Old Persian. It was an extraordinary night for Godolphin, and particularly for Charlie Appleby, with his 3 successes on the turf. Exciting sprinter Blue Point, cross-counted the stayer, and Old Persian, who could yet be his best middle-distance prospect for 2019. Do you think he will be his best middle-distance prospect for 2019? Well, Massar coming back or no Massar coming back?
An embarrassment of riches Charlie Appleby's got, hasn't he? I thought Will Beard did a good job here, because this was a steadily run race, Kieren. Top of stretch, he was in a bit of a pocket,
Yeah.
and he decided not to just sit and wait.
Yeah.
He thought, he's going to do something decisive. He angled out, he nudged Hunting Horn,
Yeah.
and he made a move, a positive move, and then the horse came back on the bridle for him.
Yeah, very, very, very good night for William, riding at the top of his game. They didn't really fancy this horse when he ran a couple of weeks ago. They thought he'd need a run, and he won. So he was always going to improve, and he was spot on the night.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Appleby really enjoyed that. His body language when he was watching that race, he actually allowed himself a little cheer. He was completely inscrutable for the rest of the night, particularly when cross-counter and Ispolini locked horns at the furlong pole of the Dubai Gold Cup, because he couldn't really be seen to be cheering for one or the other. But you know full well that he wanted cross-counter to win, because this was the Melbourne Cup horse and this is their big stayer for the season. Victory yesterday also was the first leg in the £1 Million Stayers series, because that's added to that series now. There was a lot at stake.
There was a lot at stake, and he is a good horse, obviously a Melbourne Cup winner. Very hard to do, especially for the Europeans. And he was impressive. You know, they went right away from the third. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And I know you were saying last night on the broadcast that he's a horse who could cut back in trip and do things over a mile and a half. I'm sure he could. But I think given what Stradivarius did last year, and given they've got Old Persian and Massar, they've surely got to be thinking that the Weatherby's Hamilton Stayers series, for all they don't need £1 million, it just neatly maps out a pattern for them.
I think it gives them a way to go with him. He definitely stays 2 miles. They're talking about the Ascot Gold Cup 2.5. I wouldn't be so sure about that. He travels very strongly through his races, and he showed quite a good turn of foot there. He was pretty quick down the middle of the track in the Melbourne Cup, and he quickened up from the back. So not sure he's an out-and-out stayer. He's a horse that travels well and can pick up. 2 miles is fine for him though.
But all good horses have a bit of speed as well, you know, and he is a proper horse.
Yeah, if you think of Order of St George, for example,
Yeah.
horse with tons of speed, can get placed in an arc, but
Yeah.
can win a 2.5 mile
Exactly, yeah.
staying race.
Class.
Who'd have been the best stayer you rode, the best extreme stayer you rode?
It.
And what were his credentials relative to...
He won the Coronation. It was over 1.5 miles. You know, we won a Coronation. They won 4 Gold Cups. Another horse, just pure class. I think he won the Irish Ledger as well.
Yeah.
Do you think we overplay the concept of stamina? Do you think we talk about it too much?
I wouldn't say that, you know, but it's like I thought years ago when I was with Jimmy Fitzgerald, when you had Forgive and Forget, he could walk up with his sprinters. Unbelievable. You couldn't believe it unless you've seen it. And he always said to me, all good horses have speed.
Did you ride Forgive and Forget?
I rode walk with him.
Did you?
I rode walk with him. I rode a horse, Vic Star, who won the Lincoln. And we had another sprinter there that won the dash. Willie Carson won the dash for us. You know, he had a lightweight. And before he won the Gold Cup, went up between the two of us, Mark Dwyer riding him, which obviously would be 2 stone heaviver. He went between us like that and walked right away. You couldn't believe it unless you'd seen it.
Yeah, when you were riding, a trainer told me that he gets horses, and if they can do 12-second furlongs, they have to do 2 12-second furlongs consecutively.
Yeah.
If they can do that, you've got a racehorse. Then you work out the trip. But they've got to have that basic speed first of all.
Exactly, yeah. And speed figures is always going to tell you what trip a horse needs. Jack Armstrong taught me that years ago.
Yeah.
Can we talk about a fast horse? A very fast horse. This one's not going to get the Gold Cup trip at Ascot, that's for sure. Blue Point. This horse can shift. We've always known he could shift, and he looked explosive over 5 furlongs at Royal Ascot last year in the King's Stand Stakes. And the real question last night, Angus, was could he stretch that speed not just in an ordinary race against inferiors, but in a better race at Group 1 level? Can he stretch that out to 6? He's becoming a man, this horse now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's improved, I think, from last year, Nick. He's a world-class turf sprinter now. I think he's slightly better at 5. Remember, this is a quick track, and he was really impressive when he won over 5 here at the Carnival. But this was a very good performance, winning in a fast time. And I thought William Buick Kieren was very good because he just wanted to hang on to him, sit. Now, he didn't ask him to go too soon. He just waited, and then went.
Yeah, well, William has lovely hands. You don't see a horse that's really running keen with him, and he can switch them off beautifully.
That's the key to him, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think Charlie's done a great job with this horse. You know, when you brought him here early on in the Carnival, he looked big. You know, you'd thought he'd have needed the run. Probably did, but he was able to get him here in his third start. And to win like that against the best in the world, great training performance, I think. Even though we know he's a good horse.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the only sprint on the card. We saw XY Jet's glorious redemption in the Dubai Golden Shaheen. Just to remind you, this is the horse that had finished second by a neck in 2016. He'd gone down by a nose in 2018, 2019, blitzed from the stalls, and thank you very much. If you had an interest in this horse, either emotional or financial, yesterday, there weren't too many moments of doubt, were there?
No, I was never worried, Nick. I think Craig Evans' call was really good. Craig, the racecourse commentator here, I think he said, if at first you don't succeed, try again, and that's what XY Jet's done, and he's come back. And of course, Roy H was a non-runner, so it made his task a little bit easier. But he always looked like he was going to win. He's sharp from the gates, Kieren.
Well,
he's got to the front on the dirt, and then away he goes.
Typical American style, you know, that's what they're bred to do, and that's how they're trained as well, to fast fractions early and keep them going.
And Emisel Jaramillo taking victory on XY Jet, and it was a great win for Rockingham Ranch. You've had this extraordinary run of success. Stormy Liberal ran another fine race yesterday. Roy H. I asked Brian Trump whether he was lucky or brilliant, and said a bit of both maybe, but some clutch of horses, isn't it?
Yeah, and a frustrating night for Peter Miller, because he had second and third in the turf sprint, and then Grey Magician was also second for him as well. So a really frustrating night for him, but he's a tremendous trainer on the west coast of America.
Big things were expected from Muntazar in the Godolphin Mile. He didn't deliver at all. He, as you would say, Angus, bounced to the moon. And we can take a look at the closing stages of this race now. This was the first success in the Godolphin Mile for the United States of America, or a horse trained in the United States of America, since 2008. And it was a first success on World Cup night for Todd Pletcher, and significantly a first success for Jose Ortiz, and the first of two winners for him. What do you make of Jose Ortiz as a rider,
Brilliant.
Kieren?
You know, they're based around New York, him and his brother.
Yeah.
And two great riders and two very nice young fellas, you know. They've got a great career ahead of them. You know, but they take it all over America, but in particular around New York is where they're based.
Yeah. He's got a clock in his head, hasn't he?
He has a clock, and his brother.
Yeah.
Irad.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that you and your sort of senior former weighing room colleagues have quite a lot of respect for them. You go around the world, people say, sort of recognise how good they are.
Yeah, and from a young age, you know, they're the only two that, you know, more or less control racing around that area. But wherever the big races are, they go and they fly in and out and get the job done.
And there have been significant challenges for North American racing in the last 2 or 3 months, and huge debate about the future of it. But it was a good night for the Americans last night, because bar Godolphin, they cleaned up the dirt races.
Yeah, 3 wins on the dirt for them. Yeah, they bring their horses here. They're very sharp and they're ready to go. And they've always had a good record here, particularly in the sprints, because those horses are schooled out of the gates all of the time, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're just ready to jump, bounce, and go.
And it's the way they work them.
Yeah. Just pick up on a point that you made earlier on about coming to World Cup night. Horses have to have them fresh. They have to be ready to give their best on World Cup night. A horse like Muntazar, who disappointed there, he ran his big race, didn't he?
Saturday, yeah.
Super Saturday, when he broke the track record, and I think he surprised his trainer, to be fair. But he left the Godolphin Mile out there, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. He couldn't improve on that success. He couldn't improve, and if you don't improve, there's only one way to go, and it's which he did.
Yeah.
Now, those of you who've been listening carefully will realise that we have left one race from yesterday till last, and that's because his trainer is about to come and join us. The horse's name is Pluska Parfait, and he was the winner of the 2019 UAE Derby. Angus will be joining us again later in the show, but for the moment, Captain, thank you very much indeed. Brendan Walsh joins us very shortly.
Luck on Sunday, proudly sponsored by Al Basti Equiworld Dubai.